Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Adam, and I enjoy reading books and I enjoy talking about books. And more recently, I enjoy making videos talking about books and starting discussions online about them. Though you wouldn't know it so much from the last 3 months worth of activity, since I haven't uploaded anything since October, but I'm hoping to try to remedy that now. Things have been a little bit busy, a little hectic with the holidays. Everybody's got the whole Christmas and New Year's thing going on. In my family, we have a lot of fall birthdays. Makes things a little bit more busy. Good busy, but still busy. So I have been reading, but not in mass quantities. Um, but I think that in the end of the year, what I lacked in quantity, I've made up for in quality. And to that end, I'd like to talk a little bit today about my most recent read, the book I finished most recently. Actually, a little bit after midnight on New Year's Eve, I was stubborn and staying up in bed until I finished this book, so I could still technically call it something that I finished in 2024. We'll fudge a little bit for that last hour, but that is Poland by James A. Michener. So this book. It's historical fiction. James Michener was a World War II vet who I believe he passed away in 1997. So he's not exactly one of the guys that you hear a whole lot about on YouTube and TikTok videos nowadays. Um, he's written a number of books. This is the first and only book of his that I've read, so I can't speak a whole lot about the others, but I can say that when I did some searches on YouTube, most of the videos I see where people are talking about books by James Michener, it's usually some of his better known books like Alaska, The Source, Centennial, Chesapeake, and maybe a couple others. Poland is not one of the ones that I see a lot of people talking about on YouTube. So I think I found maybe two other videos, if I recall correctly. So I thought, shoot, let's talk about Poland. Um, Michener writes a style of historical fiction that is a little bit different from what I'm used to. It's I'm used to reading historical fiction that's more along the lines of something like I don't know. Just to use an example that examples that most people will be familiar with, stuff like Gone with the Wind or Lonesome Dove, where you've got one set of characters in a particular time and a particular setting, and you spend a long time with those characters. You get in their heads, you get to know them. And yeah, I enjoy those kind of stories. I am more of I'm the kind of books that appeal to me are usually books that are more character driven than plot driven. Uh, and so, but this was a little bit different because Michener's style is to write a book focused on a particular country or geographical area, and to write a multi-generational epic that oftentimes spans several centuries, uh, talking about the history of the land, the people, the cultures, and that's what he does here in Poland. He spent a couple of years doing research on this in the late '70s. Before this book was published in uh, looks like the copyright date's 1983. And in the acknowledgments at the beginning of the book, he goes into some detail about the research that he did, the people who he was working with, and who he was bouncing ideas off of and getting information from. Um, it's he it appears to have really done his research here, um, but he covers like this edition that I have is 616 pages long, and in that he deals with probably something like 8 centuries of Polish history. So, for a character reader like myself, I didn't really get a whole lot of. I felt like I didn't get a whole lot of time to settle down with one character or one group of characters, like I'm used to doing, like I love doing. Sometimes it's felt like a series of novellas or vignettes, just that were connected in the sense that it's the same country and sometimes the same families. But it's like sometimes especially in the early chapters, I felt like just when I'd start to really feel like I was getting to know a particular character or a particular set of characters. Oh, time to go on to the next chapter. Let's jump ahead a century in time and deal with the great grandchildren of the people you were just reading about. So it's like I'm starting all over again. That made the first couple chapters, I'd say maybe the first 200 pages, a bit rough. I almost DNF'd this book. Um, you ever almost DNF something and then you don't, and you force yourself to finish it, but then by the time you get to the end, your opinion of the book has just totally changed? Because that's what happened here. I almost DNF'd it, but by the end of the book, I feel like this was just a really special book. It's maybe my favorite novel that I've read in all of 2024. Um, I have to think. I'd really have to think about when was the last time I read a book that left this kind of impression on me. It's this might be the most impactful novel I've read in the year, if not a couple years. So why, you might ask, was I drawn to this book that is almost as old as I am, written by a guy who um, isn't exactly talked about much in book circles nowadays. He's been gone for a couple decades, and it's not even one of his best known or most popular works. And I think it's worth getting into for a minute or two for a brief rabbit trail, just for some background. I am of Polish heritage. Although I live in North Carolina, I'm originally from the Detroit area, where there are a lot of descendants of Polish immigrants in Southeast Michigan, and I don't know very much about my Polish heritage, regrettably. I The little I know is that, from what I understand, my great grandfather came over on a boat from Poland to America, probably through Ellis Island, sometime in the 1910s. I say sometime in the 1910s because that is really all I know. I don't know what year. I don't know if he was fleeing the conflict of the First World War. I don't know if he was coming over in the aftermath of the First World War. I have no clue. I mean, it's anybody's guess. Um, but he came, from the story I've heard, is that he came over at 17, didn't know anybody here. Somehow, I guess he connects with some people in the Polish community in Detroit, and ends up marrying a Polish girl who he met in Detroit. And yeah, so that's kind of what I know about it. Sadly, I wish I knew more, but I don't know a whole lot about Poland. I Why is my Amazon speaker lighting up? Let's mute that thing. You don't need to be responding to me while I make a video. Sorry about that. Anyway, I figure the average American doesn't really know a whole lot about Poland, regardless of what your heritage is. I feel like most Americans, I know that Poland exists in this buffer area, in between Germany and Russia, and that I mean, the thing that most Americans, if you were to ask the average American, what do you know about Poland? Most people are probably going to tell you, oh, they got invaded by Germany during the Second World War, and they got they were conquered in rapid form, and the Germans set up concentration camps there. And that then after the Second World War, they were part of the Soviet Eastern Bloc and lived under communist rule until the end of the Cold War. And that pretty much comprises what the average American, myself included, knows about Poland. So if I was going to go and get a history book, I wouldn't even know where to start with, like, what's a good book to read about Poland. If you've read a great history book about Poland that's going to be informative and not completely put me to sleep, please, please, please feel free to suggest it to me in the comments. I would love to hear about it. But I don't know. So, well, any direction on that? I did something I thought would be more entertaining, which is to read a historical fiction book by an acclaimed author who seemingly has done his research. So that's how I ended up with Michener's Poland. Um, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to say the first 200 pages of this book are a bit rough. I remember picking this up and seeing on the front cover, look there at the bottom where it has this quote from the Washington Post: compelling, a page turner in the grand Michener tradition. Those first couple hundred pages, there were days where I'd pick it up and I'd read 5 or 6 pages, maybe 10 pages, and I'd put it down. Just like, I can't do this anymore. Um, Whoever wrote this quote from the Washington Post must have been getting paid to do it. You're a sick, sick man or woman for writing such a disgusting lie that the publisher then stuck on the mass market paperback edition. What is wrong with you? I changed my tune later on, but first couple hundred pages read like a history book. Kind of reads like Michener wanted to write a history book, but didn't want to cite his sources, so he made it fiction. Um, First couple hundred pages, well, we kind of start off with a setting from like 1980, 1981, where you have a labor dispute uh, between a man who's kind of representing a bunch of farmers and a Communist Party guy that's kind of doing some of the negotiations here with him. And then the final chapter of the book deals with the same people in the same labor dispute in 1980. But in between that, you've got 800 years of Polish history, where he goes back in time, beginning in like the 1200s. And you like the first 4 chapters of this book, titles from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south. Each of those 4 chapters deals with an invasion that came um, from whatever cardinal direction is mentioned in the chapter. It's sometimes it's the Tatars, way back in like the 1200s, like Genghis Khan's people, the Mongols and the Tatars invading from the east. You got the Prussians invading from the west. From the north, I can't remember now. Maybe was it the Swedes? I can't remember. No, north. No, that's from the. No, that wasn't the Prussians. That was the maybe it's Russia. And from the south, the Turks. And so that starts on like page 25 and doesn't end until page 203. So you got a good 175 pages. That's just a lot of military history and battles in time periods that, for me, is a little bit hard to visualize sometimes. And I think sometimes it was a little bit. I think that Michener's descriptions weren't always the easiest to visualize either. So um, it's a little bit rough going, getting through some military history. But then you get about 200 pages in, we have this chapter called The Golden Freedom. And I'm not going to explain what the Golden Freedom is and why this chapter is named that. Don't want to give anything away here. But we jump to, I believe it's the 1700s, 1750s maybe. Yeah, I'm flipping through it here. But yeah, you're in like the mid to late 1700s here, and the story really picks up. And I would say that from there through the rest of the book, um, it that quote on the front really does make sense. It took me like 2 months to get through the first 200 pages, and then I think I read the following 400 pages in like 2 weeks. And considering that I don't have a ton of time to read, um, for me to get through 400 pages in 2 weeks is pretty good time for me, especially the way this writing is. But yeah, it became a page turner. Instead of picking it up and reading 5 or 10 pages and putting it down to go and read something else I thought was more interesting, this was like just about like the only thing I wanted to read. So yeah, it was like the way I felt about this book. We went through just a full complete 180 there. Like that was it, I came away from this feeling like, wow, this is an amazing book. I've today is January what 5th. Yeah, I've thought about this book every day since I finished it. I will probably continue to think about this book and the stories within it for some time. And I don't think that's just a recency bias speaking. Um, this book is a really rich tapestry of the Polish people. There's political intrigue, there's romance, there's action, there's scheming, there's heroic uh, exploits, there's shameful betrayals. There's an entire chapter that deals with one of the principal families, one of the characters from one of the principal families that's being followed, who is who's interned in one of the concentration camps in Poland during the Second World War. It was excellent but difficult to read. Um, some of the chapters get to be pretty long. I mean, I think I mentioned earlier it's over 600 pages, but there's only like there's only 10 chapters, and I mean some of the chapters are short chapters like 25, 30 pages. The longest chapters are like I think there's maybe two chapters that are over they're around 100 110 pages apiece. So that's what I was saying earlier. It's almost like some of these are like like a collection of novellas. You're basically following three families, all fictitious. The You have the Wabanskis, who are like your upper crust, um, like um, gosh, I can't. I'm having a brain fart here. Like one of the guys, he's like a count. So he's a reference to Count Wabansky. So you got your upper crust, your business magnates, guys in political office, the rich and the powerful. Then you've got the Bukovskis, who, if I was to try to put it in a more modern description, I would say the Bukovskis are kind of like your upper middle class. They're not wealthy, um, uh, but maybe middle class. I don't know about upper middle class. The Bukovskis aren't wealthy, but they have a good name and a good reputation, strong family history, and they're kind of wanting to make the jump into the upper class. Uh, like think of it kind of like gentry, but they don't have the massive estates and riches that you might normally associate with the gentry of centuries past. And then there's the Bucks. I might be mispronouncing that. I don't know if it's the Bucks or the Books. The spelling is Buk for that last name. But I'm going to call them the Bucks. Uh, they are like the peasant class. They basically they're agrarian people that they're farmers. They're like living in a lot of like single room cottages with dirt floors throughout many of the centuries, living on land that doesn't belong to them. That they're servants to people like the Bukowskis and the Bobanskis. So you kind of get a lot of like slice of life type stuff from different social classes within Poland over the course of a large swath of time. Sometimes it'd be frustrating. It's like just about the time I'm getting used to being, one guy, one and his wife. Then, oh, we're in another chapter dealing with their great grandchildren. So, for someone who's a character reader, yeah, that was hard. But overall, though, I feel like I got out of it what I was hoping for. I wanted to have a better understanding of the culture of Poland. I mean, I realize that that reading this doesn't make me an expert on Polish culture or Polish history. It takes a lot more than reading one work of historical fiction, but I do feel like I have a better understanding than what I did before. Um, there's assumptions that I think have been made about the Polish people that I feel like the author kind of addressed some of that as well. Maybe some of the negative stereotypes that I remember hearing about Polish people that I feel like some of the stuff that I read in this book uh, kind of helped me to understand why some of those stereotypes began to exist. And of course, stereotypes mean that they are stereotypes. They're generalities, which uh, usually tend to be untrue when applied to a large group of people. I mean, there's going to be some people that fit the stereotype and others that don't. But yeah, stereotyping bad. I think we can all agree with that, right? Um, but yeah, it's a great read. I'm really glad that I picked this up. I'm really glad that I did not DNF it. Um, so if you've read Poland, I would love to hear from you. If you've not read Poland, but maybe you've read another book by James Michener, I'd love to hear from you on that also. Tell me about what Michener book you read and did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you love? What did you dislike? Um, or maybe you've not read Michener. Tell me what is your favorite historical fiction? Um, I'm always I always love hearing people gush about their favorite books that mean a lot to them, and I think it's a great way to figure out what I'm going to read down the road, whether it's next week, next month, next year, 10 years from now. I mean, let's face it, we've all got the if you've been a lifelong reader, then and you're an adult, then a lot of us all have those books that we picked up several years ago that we thought, oh, I'd love to read this, and you still haven't gotten around to it yet. Um, that this was one of those for me, but I'm really glad I read it, and I hope that perhaps through my making this video that maybe I can encourage others to read it as well. Um, but yeah, whether you're watching this video a couple days after I post it or years after I post it, if you read the book, please do let me know. I would love to hear from you. Um, as for future reading, since I finished this, I have picked up the Kindle edition of Brandon Sanderson's Wind and Truth book 5 of the Stormlight Archives. So I'm getting back to some fantasy. Um, about 200 pages in. So far on the internet, I'm seeing very mixed reviews on this book. I'm hearing some. I've not watched or read any spoiler reviews. I've tried to keep anything I watched or read limited to spoiler-free stuff. But I don't know. Sometimes I think I shouldn't read or watch reviews before I read something. Sometimes if it's something I already know that I need that I want to read, um, some of the stuff I'm seeing. Well, let's say I'm concerned, but we'll talk more about that another day. So thank you for spending some time listening to me, and I'd love to hear from you. We should do this again sometime. Take care.